Welcome back to the Pedal and Pivot podcast, the place for science-backed chats on health, wellness, hobbies, lifestyle, and everything in between. I'm here to unpack trending topics and buzzwords, digging into their evidence-based roots, and offering practical tips you can actually use in your everyday life. Because let's be real, sometimes life is all sunshine and roses, and other times we have to pivot through the mess to bloom into our best selves. Let's get started. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the show. I'm so glad to have you here again for season 2 of the Pedal and Pivot podcast. I took a little break. It was unintentional, just life got busy and I just started school again. I actually recorded an episode a week or two ago, but I didn't really like it, and obviously I'm not going to give you guys subpar content. So I just took a little break and just scrapped that whole episode. I actually incorporated some elements into this one because I thought that it would be better than doing a whole episode on it. It was about AI and wellness, and I just don't think that I fleshed it out very well. So that episode will not be coming out, but I did incorporate some of it into today's episode. What have I been up to recently? School started again. I'm back in Florida. Just same old, still doing my hobbies. I am taking one of the dogs from the shelter on a dog date tomorrow, and I'm so excited for that. So I'll definitely tell you about that in next week's episode. You may have noticed that today's episode is going up on a Sunday instead of my usual Thursday. I think I'm going to be a little bit more sporadic with the days that I post. I want to definitely do at least 2 episodes a month, but it might not always be on a Thursday. The schedule might just be a little thrown off. Life is what it is, I've realized, and I would rather put out good content and try to be as consistent as possible, even if it's not on a super strict schedule. So without further ado, let's get started with the intro segments for today's episode. So as I previously mentioned, this is season 2, episode 1, and today we are talking about the science of a new you and the psychology behind a reset. This episode was really inspired by me seeing several people talk about how they love to reinvent themselves. They love the first of the month. They love a Monday. They love the first of the year. So I was just a little bit curious about what psychology and science really says about why so many of us crave that fresh start. And that's what we'll be diving into in today's episode. The quote for today is, "Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself." And this was by George Bernard Shaw. I thought that this was the perfect quote for today's episode because sometimes we can get into the habit of reinventing ourselves over and over and over, and we always talk about finding ourselves. And I believe that we really know who we are deep down inside, and we're also capable of creating whoever we want to be within reason. And I just thought that this quote was perfect for today's episode. My pedal moment is that I got to go to dinner with some of my friends last night. We have a little bit less of a demanding schedule this semester, so we should hopefully be able to get together more often, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And my pivot moment would just be that I'm still struggling a little bit with my autoimmune joint pain, so I haven't been able to work out as consistently as I would like, but I'm going to do my best to try and get into a more consistent routine. And I know that everyone says that around this time of year, but everyone says it for a reason. It's something that we all really aspire to do. Let's get into the prompts from last episode. So the first one was, what is one moment that changed your outlook on life this year? I think that starting medical school has had such a big impact on me this year. Every now and then I'll catch myself being like, whoa, I'm really going to be a doctor. Like, I'm really going to be looked up to make decisions and being in really impactful moments in people's lives. And I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm just excited to see all that medicine has to offer for me. The second prompt was, what are you grateful for that happened this year? I am really grateful that I found Abandoned Pet Rescue, which is the shelter that I volunteer at. I really love working with the dogs, and if you would have told me a couple years ago that I would be volunteering at an animal shelter, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But I just love spending time with the dogs and knowing that I'm making such an impactful moment in their lives, and just it's so rewarding for me, and I know that they enjoy it as well. It's a good way for me to get dog therapy without all the added responsibilities of actually having my own dog, because I just don't think that's the most feasible for me at this moment in time. And the last prompt was, what's your top priority going into 2026? I would say that my top priority is just finding sustainable routines that are good for me, whether that's sleep, workouts, anything like that. I just want to be more consistent and a bit more regimented. As someone with ADHD, that can be a little bit difficult, but I also know that it will be very important and impactful for me to be successful in my career. So I would say that is probably the top priority going into 2026 for me. And now let's get into the main part of the episode, the real science behind New You and why everyone wants to do a reset. In true pedal and pivot style, let's start off with the research. An article in Open Psychology Journal said that being undermined by authority, having significant life events, career changes, trauma, and internet addiction can heavily influence one's desire for reinvention. An article by Clare and Bernard in 2024 shared that reinvention allows individuals with chronic illnesses to cope with their new standard of life. A quote that I really liked from this article was, reconciling the broken self with an ideal self leads to the construction of a meaningful self. And I think that we can all take something away from that, even if we don't have a traditional chronic illness. An article in Very Well Mind shared that social comparison theory is a psychological theory first developed in 1954 that basically says we construct our evaluations of ourselves based on how we measure up to those around us and their expectations. This can be in an upward trajectory or a downward trajectory, which would be upward versus downward social comparison. And lastly, an article by Wiley talked about identity control theory, which is centered on the idea that our behaviors and positions or titles add up to the reality of who we think we are. And when you first listen to what these articles have to say, it can sound a little depressing, especially if you're talking about trauma, internet addiction, chronic illnesses. But what I want you to take away from it is that it's your brain just doing what it knows how to do best. Reinvention is your brain's way of adapting and reconciling between who you want to be and who you are in this moment. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we've learned to do evolutionarily, and don't beat yourself up for it. Your brain is just doing your best, and you are just doing your best, and you shouldn't be hard on yourself for that. I'm going to next move into some practical tips that can make reinvention a little bit more fun and a little bit more healing compared to some of the strict routines that you may see on some social media apps. The first tip would be to start a journal. A journal doesn't have to be some big brain dump of every single thought that you've had for the entire day. You can do 3 simple prompts. Sometimes I do keep, change, and release. So things that happen that day that I want to continue to do, things that I want to adjust, and then things that I want to let go of. And over time, that will help me to see where my mind was at that time, and I can see how I'm naturally changing over time. It can also help me to uncover some subconscious thoughts that I have, and that's something that I really want to tap into a little bit more with therapy, because I think that will help to heal some of the inner child things that I can't necessarily recall, and other components of life that may be bothering me that I'm not even consciously aware of. The second is to ask a parent, friend, or family member, or whoever is close to you, about how they would describe you to someone else. We are our harshest critics, there's no question about that, and the people around us truly love and value us, and they see some things in ourselves that we can't see. And so asking them this question is a way to remind yourself that you're doing a great job already, even though it might not feel like it every single day. The third tip is to choose 1 to 3 habits that you want to implement this week. 3 can even be a little high, but it depends on what the habits are. For example, if you want to wake up at 8:30 this week, which that was my goal last week and I did pretty well with it, that could be your goal. If you want to drink 1 cup extra of water a day, you could have a goal of going to bed earlier. Just these little things, and over time, the habits that you build will change who you are as a person. I'm actually going to talk about that in the next episode, about routines and habits and all that stuff, because the first episode that I did on that did really well and you guys really enjoyed it, and I love a habit and a routine, so I'm definitely more than happy to talk about that again. The fourth tip is to create an achievements board or a note like in your phone to recognize your accomplishments. If you're anything like me, you can sometimes forget all the things that you've accomplished. So I started a note just in my Notion, and every time that I accomplish something, whether it's big or small, I'll just write a note in there. Sometimes it could be that I tried a new recipe. Sometimes it could be something bigger like graduating or passing one of my classes. And sometimes when I'm feeling down, I'll just go into that note and look over all the things that I accomplished and remind myself that I am doing a good job and I'm doing the things that I said I wanted to do, even though it might not feel like it in my day-to-day life. The fifth tip, I think we're on 5, is to create a vision board. I love a vision board. I make one every year. I put it as my laptop background and my phone background, just so that I can, even if it's subconsciously, I can see the things that I'm working towards. And as a visual learner, seeing those things really does help to remind me of what my goals are, rather than having to read a little blurb of everything that I want to achieve and how I want to achieve it. I do that as well, but just seeing the vision board every day is a great way to get it into my subconscious mind. And sometimes I'll forget what I even put on my vision board, and then I'll still accomplish it. And also, I just wanted to say that if you don't accomplish everything on your vision board, that is okay too. Life happens, and until we get to the end, it's not the end. So you can always try again later. And the last practical tip that I wanted to share was starting a new routine. If you are keeping up with me on social media, you saw that I posted AI picks my morning routine. And that was just something fun for me to do, because sometimes coming up with a new routine can be difficult, especially because a lot of people with their morning routines will wake up super early in the morning, and that's just not for me. Or they'll work out in the morning, that's also not for me. So I just used ChatGPT to help me alter my routine a little bit so that I can be more productive and just be more aligned with the person that I want to become. You can use it for all different things. I've used it for a workout routine before. I use it to help me with meal planning. It's really such a great tool, and it gets a bad rap sometimes, but depending on how you use it, it can be really useful. And if you're anything like me, it's going to be a great tool. Speaking of, I wanted to talk about some websites, apps, and things that I use to help me with my reinvention journey. The first one that I already mentioned was ChatGPT. You can use it to summarize your thoughts if you're looking for a consistent theme through journal prompts. Use it to create meal plans or routines, etc. It's so many things you can do with ChatGPT, and I think that a lot of people just think of using it like Google, and I actually don't use it like Google because I would just use Google, but it can help you to just be more effective and efficient with some of your ideas and to draw conclusions that you might not see there. It's kind of like bouncing it off another person. Obviously, it's not a replacement for therapy, but you're not at therapy every day. You don't have your therapist there with you 24/7. So sometimes it can help you to just bridge some of those gaps that you might not be realizing on your own. My second website that I really like is Pinterest. I've been a Pinterest girly literally since middle school, so it's been over 10 years, and there's so much that I have on there. But I use Pinterest to have like a digital vision board that I will update throughout the year, and I have a little widget on my phone that flicks through some of the images on my vision board actually. And then I also use it for random things like outfits that I like, my wedding one day, the house that I want one day. It's just a form of subconscious manifesting almost, and just being intentional about the things that you're surrounding yourself with. I also use it for recipes. It's my favorite place to get recipes from actually, and I've loved most of the recipes that I've tried on there. This one's a little bit different, but telehealth. I am so grateful that we live in a world where we have telehealth and that I'm able to access it. I specifically use Rula for psychiatry appointments. I've been through a couple other telehealth options, and this one's just the one that works the best for me. And I also started using Nourish for nutrition because I'm just trying to be a little bit healthier overall. And my first nutritionist didn't really work out so well, but I'm going to try a new one. And that's a nice thing that I like about these telehealth options. I'm able to switch between providers with no real issue. And then with Rula and Nourish specifically, I don't have a large copay, which is definitely helpful for me because I am trying to be a little more budget friendly, and also I am in school, so I don't have a bunch of money to, not that anyone does, but I don't have a bunch of money to waste on doctor's appointments, especially if they're not truly changing my life. I also do my regular therapy through telehealth, my provider has her own platform, and I love that as well because I'm able to see the same provider whether I'm in Bermuda or I'm in Florida, and that's been life changing for me because when I was in Ohio, I could only see that therapist if I was physically in Ohio, and because I go back and forth between home so much, and therapy is such a vulnerable situation, I didn't want to have to change therapists all the time. So I'm really grateful that my therapist does telehealth, and I've been with her for probably 4 years at this point, and that's definitely something that I'm grateful for and definitely continue to use. As long as I'm around, she will have a job because me and her should go together real bad. Next, I'd like to talk about a couple apps. So I just wanted to talk about how I curate my Instagram or TikTok feed. I am very specific with who I follow and who I don't. I will unfollow someone that's just not aligning with me anymore. And so most of the time when I'm on TikTok or Instagram, I am either getting inspired, catching up with people that I really care about, or just laughing. I will be cracking up with laughter sometimes when I'm on the internet. And a lot of people talk about how social media pulls them into a trap of comparison, and I am really grateful that I don't really experience that. And I think it's because of how I've curated my social media feeds. The other app that I wanted to talk about is Apple Health. A lot of people might not know this. I have an Apple Watch, so it connects directly to Apple Health. But I also connect like MyFitnessPal, which is where I track my food, directly to Apple Health. It allows me to track my period. It even has a feature where you can track how much time you spend in sunlight in a day. And for someone who struggles with their mental health, that is something that I want to be monitoring throughout the year, so that if I'm having a day where I don't feel the greatest, maybe I'll check my watch and see, or my Apple Health app, and see that I haven't been outside all week, and it'll be like, okay, time to go outside. Like, that's why you don't feel great. They also have a mood tracking section. There's just so many sections, and I think a lot of people aren't using Apple Health to its fullest potential. There are other apps out there as well, but Apple Health is just what I use at this point in time. Before we leave off, I just wanted to give a couple of reminders. First, I wanted to give you some ways that you can make reinvention fun. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm pretty sure sometimes it can feel a little bit intimidating to kind of overhaul your life, and it can have a negative connotation to it, but you can make things fun as well. For example, you can make a list and get a device, or you can just do it yourself to pick a number, and that can be how you try out new activities or new shows. You can try a hobby from when you were little. For example, I started junk journaling, and I love that. It's like scrapbooking but less serious. You can color, you can do word searches. There's so many hobbies that you can do. I actually have a whole episode about hobbies, and you guys really enjoyed that one as well. And then the other way to make it fun is to find some content creators who align with your ideal self. If you guys want me to make a post recommending some content creators that I really like, that I find inspirational or just wholesome, I can definitely do that. Just let me know in the comments down below, or DM me on Instagram or TikTok. And before we go, I just wanted to remind you that there's nothing wrong with you exactly the way that you are right now. You don't have to feel like you need to reinvent yourself. There's nothing wrong with you the way that you are. If you want to reinvent yourself, that's completely fine, but don't feel pressured by anyone else to have to make these changes, because you don't have to. I also wanted to remind you that mistakes aren't failures, but rather they're information to inform future decisions, because if you think back over some of the things that happened that you might have been disappointed in at the time, you've probably learned something from it, even if it wasn't directly in that same moment. Nobody is perfect. We are all just existing on a floating rock and trying to do our best most of the time. And life is also long, and we are ever evolving. So if you look back in a couple years and don't like the version of yourself that you were, that's okay. You learned something from it, and we are always evolving, and there's so much more to life than this exact moment. So before I let you all go, you know I always have some journal prompts. 1. When do you feel most like yourself, and what are you doing? 2. What's one habit that you can start that aligns with your ideal or future self? And 3. What's one thing your younger self would admire about your current self? that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please let me know any recommendations, comments, anything in the comments below. I would love to talk to you guys some more. And if you made it to this point in the video, comment down below what one of your New Year's resolutions was. Mine, as I mentioned at the top of the video, is just to improve some of my routines. Specifically, I want to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. I know it sounds so basic, but it's something that I struggle with from time to time. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.